I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, March the 8th. And success in the cattle business, especially for a cow-calf producer, is really more about giving them what they want, and especially when they want it. A lot of cow-calf producers, in my opinion, spend way too much time just solely thinking about production, trying to wean the biggest calves that they can wean, trying to worry about their genetics and all these things. And all those things are great, but you've got to look over here at your marketing and find out what people want and when they want it. And it doesn't matter what you do in this world. Everybody's got a boss, or they're working for somebody. And if you've got cows and calves, you're working for your buyer. It may be a backgrounder, it may be a feeder. You know, some of your feeders are working for the packer. That's kind of a thankless job. But find out what they want. See how you can produce what they want when they want it, and see when what your best options are. But I'm going to give you several different individual quotes at the end of this report, and I think it'll open your eyes a little bit to see what's more important, whether it's time or money or pounds. Because you see some cattle that are weighing less, bringing a whole lot more money than some bigger cattle. But anyways, let's look at the board for Wednesday. June live cattle up a nickel at 114.82. April's up 15 cents at 122.97. April feeder cattle down 75 cents to end the day at 145.37. March feeder cattle down 52 cents at 143.77. Well, on the fat cattle trade, we had 9,100 head sell on Tuesday. Of course, you didn't have any feedlots people word of it, because they weren't too proud of what they had done, and we didn't have really, and if it wasn't for mandatory price reporting, the packers have to report all their sales. We would have never found out about it. But the Southern Plains once again sold cattle at 126. It's not as disappointing as last week, because 126 is steady money. So we've had some more steady money sell. On the Fed Cattle Exchange, they had about 474 head. Sold the bulk of those, all but one pen that was PO'd, at 126, and that was kind of what had been happening on Tuesday. So they probably weren't wild about taking 126, but there was no point in fighting it. Now your northern boys are going to dig in, and they're going to hope for more. You saw a few deals sell on Monday, actually, at 128, 129 in the northern plains in Iowa. But you know, we were really hoping to gain a couple of bucks here, because I'm telling you, in about a month, 6 weeks, you're going to think that nobody's eating beef anymore if you've got fat cattle, because these packers are going to take advantage. They are going to they're going to drop this market, not a buck or two each week, but they're going to drop it in hunks, and they're going to crank up the slaughter and not have to pay too much for it. And they are going to stockpile their freezers and get ready for the grilling season. But 126 so far this week. Hopefully we've been able to get more in the northern plains and kind of even it out a little bit. But look at your feeder cattle market on Wednesday. Your real-time index on Beef Market Central, based on the 800-pound steer, late in the day on Wednesday, setting at 143.67. That's down 27 cents compared to the late day Tuesday there. But look at some sales on Wednesday. El Reno, Oklahoma, you know, they've just been having week after week of crappy weather, whether it was wet or cold or miserable or whatever. They had some nice weather here the first part of this week. And look at the receipts, 13,600 head for the 2-day sale. And remember, they only had 2,500 calves on Tuesday, but a huge yearling sale on Wednesday. The feeders were $2 to $4 lower. Stocker type cattle that you can turn out either on graze out or grass, and there's plenty of guys that want to go to both, steady. And calves steady to 5 higher on that light run on Tuesday. Dodge City, Kansas had 3,500 on Wednesday. feeders there steady to $3 lower, and stocker steers there also steady to $3 higher, and not a good test on the calves. But let's look at these individual quotes and kind of keep in mind I'm going to give you a price per head. In Dunlap, Iowa, they sold some lightweight steer calves, and everybody wants lightweight, so you got so many options on them this time of year. They had 74 head of 466 pound. I mean, little peewee steers bring $216.50. That's over $1,000 a head for a little bitty old calf that might run between your legs just as well as he would around you or over you. But $1,009 per head for that little peewee steer calf. Now let's look south of there and a little bit west. St. Joe Stockyards in St. Joe, Missouri. They can sell those stocker types. 75 head of 689 pound steers, dang near 700 pounds, sell at $173.25. That's $1,194 per head. That's 220 pounds bigger than those peewee calves, and about 180 bucks or so. But now let's look at some bigger cattle. We remember those big stockers in St. Joe bring $1,194 per head. In Creston, Iowa, just up in south central Iowa there, 77 head of 740 pound steers bring $162.60. Now that's a heck of a price there, but it's only about 10 bucks higher than those cattle that weighed 50 pounds less over in St. Joe. But let's think of that, 1,203 pounds of those good lighter weight steers, and those I wouldn't think they would take those back to graze, just probably farmer feeders wanting more time on those cattle. But 740 pound feeder steers at $162.60. But then let's go up to the bigger steers. 72 head of 792 pound feeding steers in Creston, Iowa bring $147. That's where you see the big drop off. But going from those 740 pound steers up to 792, that's where you see the big gap. And it's kind of like moving from April to June fat cattle futures. You just see a huge drop off there when you get into those bigger cattle weighing right around 8 compared to those cattle weighing in the low 7s. But we remember those 740 pound steers brought $1,203 per head. The 72 head of 792 pound steers bring $147. That's $1,164 per head. Now let's get even bigger and see if that pays or not. 60 head of 895 pound big feeding steers there bring $135.60. That's $1,214 a head. That's $20 more than those 6-weight stockers over in St. Joe. That's 10 bucks more than those 740 pounders, and they're 150 pounds bigger. Now I've heard of cheap cost of gains, but that's ridiculous. You can't turn the tide the wrong way. But it's all about giving your buyers what they want when they want it. And I hate to muddy the water by talking about the sheep and goats, but if you look at the sheep and goat industry, guys that have ewes, they anymore these days, they don't worry about making fat lambs. They make little lambs for that ethnic demand right there around Easter time, and they make those little light Easter lambs. And your kid goats, they make those for Ramadan and all around your ethnic holidays. But you need to just kind of pay attention, and it's like this every year, guys. It's not a new thing. So it's something you can kind of pay attention to, and you might want to tweak the way you produce cattle and see if you can't hit some of those sweet spots. But that's your feeder flash for Thursday.